Now on our user interface, we've got a button which says process 289 cards. The 289 refers to the number of student records that our Python script needs to process, and if you recall, this number was fetched by finding the length of the array that contains these records in the studentrecords.json file. This number was then injected into the HTML page using handlebars. This button can have two possible states. On the left, you can see the active state, which is when you can click on the button, while the state on the right is the inactive state, which is when you won't be able to click and use the button. Visually, the state is set by either adding or removing a CSS class called inactive. So in this video, we'll code the logic that governs this state. When data is received back from Apache Apollo, we are going to store it in an array called item array, and this is the source from where it'll go on our web page. So when we launch our Happy.js app for the first time, and till the time we don't click on the process button, this array would be empty. If so, then we want our process button to be in an active state, because only then the user can click on this button, resulting in the data being sent across to Apache Apollo to our Python script for processing. On the other hand, if this array is not empty, then it means that we are either receiving or have received data from Apache Apollo, and this means that we do not want the user to be able to click and restart sending the data to Apollo. Another situation is when the user clicks on this button to initiate data publishing to Apollo. This is when we would want our button to be set as inactive. So to summarize, we would be storing the data that we receive from Apache Apollo in an array called item array. And from there, we will send the data onto the page using socket.io. So when our Happy app is launched, this array would obviously be empty, and hence we would want our button to be active. Now do note that by default, this button comes disabled using a CSS class called inactive. So making the button active means removing this CSS class and vice versa. We'll use jQuery for that. Alright, the second situation is when the user presses this button to initiate data publishing to Apollo. This would be another situation when our item array starts getting data from Apollo and we would want our button to be inactive. Finally, the last state would be when we have received data from Apollo and it's there on the page, but the user chooses to refresh the page in the browser. In that situation, we would want this button to stay inactive, because in this case, we'll simply load all the data from the item array and display on our page. I hope you've understood conceptually how the button state is affected by the state of the app and the state of the item array, which is where process data would be stored once received back from Apache Apollo. Let's now jump back into code and implement our button states. So the first thing we'll do is create our item array in the main plugins function declaration like so. You can see that I'm using the let keyword here. Now inside the connection event handler for socket.io, we'll check the length of the item array, and if it is greater than 0, that is, if the array is not empty, then we would want to keep the button disabled or disable it, and if the array is empty, then it means that we still have to publish data to Apollo for processing, and so we would want our button to be active. Therefore, for deactivating the button, we'll emit a socket event called button state, with an object containing the key state set to false. We'll handle this in our page in just a short while. Similarly, if the array is empty, we'll activate the button by sending the button state event with the state set to true. Next, let's shift to our index.html file where we will receive our socket events. You can see here that the process button, which has the CSS ID processBTN, already contains the class attribute with the value inactive. So by default, our button is inactive, but the moment the app comes online and socket.io establishes a connection, we will set the button state based on the button state event data as received from our socket code in the main plugin. Since we're using jQuery, the first thing I'll do is create a variable using let called processBTN, and we'll store the jQuery selector to our button like so. Next, we'll attach an event listener to our socket instance, which is returned when we do an io.connect, and here we'll listen for the button state event. We'll also set the callback to receive exactly one argument called data, which will contain the object with the state property that we emitted from our main plugin. Next, we'll do a simple check to see if the data.state property is true or not. If true, this means we want to have the button in the active state, and this can be done by using jQuery's remove class method to remove the inactive class. If data.state is false, then we would want to deactivate the button by setting the class to inactive using jQuery's add class method. This is as simple as it gets really. Next, I'll attach an event listener to our button because we want to do stuff when someone clicks on it. We'll use the click event listener and using jQuery with the this keyword, we'll select the processBTN and add the inactive class here. So basically what we are saying is that when the user clicks on this button, we want to start sending the data to Apollo, and we'll code this functionality in the next video. So while we are sending the data, we also want this button disabled so that the user is unable to click on it. Notice how I'm using the traditional function declaration as the callback instead of the ES6 arrow notation which we've been using of late. The reason has to do with the this keyword. In the case of this function declaration, we want the this keyword to point to the element to which the event listener has been attached, which in this case is the process button. And the function notation here does precisely that. It binds the this keyword correctly to the process button. If we use the arrow here, then the this keyword refers to the this of the parent scope inside which the event listener has been created. Therefore, it doesn't point to the process button and hence doesn't work. Alright, so NodeMon has restarted the app automatically. So let's go into the browser and hit refresh, and you can see our button is active because item array is empty at the moment. Now to test our setup, let me drop an item in the array like so. Hit save so that NodeMon can restart the app, and you can see that our button has been deactivated as expected. Let's reset this back so that our button is active again. And I'll click on it this time, and you can see that the button has been deactivated because this is when we want to start sending data to Apollo. So one last thing which I totally forgot was to invoke the prevent default method on the event object returned by the click event listener, which prevents the browser from redirecting or refreshing the page accidentally when the process button, which is nothing more than an anchor tag, is clicked. And so our button state is all set.